everybody. I thought we'd be able to have a nice conversation about how we can help folks uh, find funding for workshops. And there's a chance he may not may be able to stay for a short bit here, but I just wanted to tell you that we've had many requests for this recording. There were a bunch of folks that couldn't make this meeting, but they definitely wanted the recording. So um, just want to let you know that this will most likely be used by quite a few other folks in the future.
Oh, good.
They want to parse your wisdom. All right, Jane, did you want to kick us off?
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I will. I
You have seniority, right, Jane?
I have been doing this since 1999. That was when Earl Leglighter he went on his own. He had finished the modeling workshop 3 summers at ASU, 1995, 96, and 97. And he had written a grant proposal for improving teacher quality, or the precursor to that, and drove it to one of his to his local university and put it in the hands of the physics professor, who is a woman, and she submitted it and he got the grant. So he had a modeling workshop, I think it was 1998 actually, in Kansas, or might have been 1999. But anyway, ever since, for about 13 years, I worked with teachers, modelers all over the nation to host modeling workshops here and there and everywhere. A lot of them were with universities because there was a good grant program at that time. And so, grant writing so getting funding was pretty easy, actually. But it got harder and harder as the years went by. When No Child Left Behind came, that made it really hard, because all of a sudden, all these university faculty were telling me, Jane, I wrote a proposal and I didn't get accepted because all they want is proposals for high poverty schools. And that made it really hard. And after about 1910 or 11, it was just about impossible to get any kind of grants for modeling workshop. But then Wendy Heyman came on board as membership director, and she started working with teachers. Thank goodness, because I was way overworked. But anyway, for about 13 or so years, I was the one who worked with the universities all over the nation, and occasionally a school district, to get funding and host local modeling workshops. So I know some things to do. I wrote up 3 documents, and Sue Ray posted them on the AMTA website, on tips on how to get some funding to host a modeling workshop. So I urge all of you to look at the web page on the AMTA website called, what's it called? Getting support for modeling, getting funding. There you go.
Sharing it now.
There you go. Yeah, go to this financial support for workshops. Go to this web page, and take a look at the documents. Go ahead and download the documents.
Document there. This is the first one, right? This is
okay. There's one. Okay, service organization. This is basically Colleen McGowan's idea. She put me onto this. She had some good success in getting technology for her classroom when she was teaching in California, by offering to give luncheon talks to local service organizations. Well, then David Hessen has picked up on that idea in Phoenix, and he gave a PowerPoint talk to the Seroptimists, and they just gave him $3,000 that he used for, we happened to use it for tuition scholarships, but it could easily be used for to pay a co-leader or a leader. Anything helps. And the other 2 examples were okay, a physics teacher organized a modeling workshop, and he needed money for a nun so she could attend. And she got money from the Knights of Columbus. And then a third example of a teacher in Louisiana who gave a talk to a Rotary Club, and they gave him money for his travel, and then his school board member picked up on it. I didn't even mention another example in Phoenix where a teacher asked for $300 from his local Kiwanis club or something, and they gave him $700. It was really amazing what a simple talk will do. I've talked with people, business people in Phoenix, and they say, yeah, we belong to a local service organization. We don't know any good teachers who are using best practices. We'd be glad to fund give funding, but we don't know some good teachers. We don't know teachers who are using research-based instruction. We want to know them. They need to come forth, though. So there you go. There's one thought. Can you show one of the other? Yeah, okay, federal Title II. Okay, now I've worked with school districts, a couple of them, and so has Wendy Heyman. And school districts get a lot of money for Title II, and it's supposed to be used for teacher professional development in their district. And they oftentimes use it very unwisely because they just don't know any better. The curriculum coordinator is in charge. Someone in the district, in every district, is in charge of spending this Title II money, and they oftentimes do not spend it wisely. Now, here's an example of how it was used wisely here in Phoenix. Wendy Heyman worked on this. I got it started, though. Tolleson Union High School District is a high poverty district. It has something like 6 high schools, and they're just west of Phoenix. And at one high school, La Jolla Community High School, several of the physics and chemistry teachers had taken modeling workshop. They went to their district curriculum coordinator and demanded that the district Title II funds be used for a district-wide modeling workshop. And the curriculum coordinator knew nothing, but she said, okay, you guys are demanding this. You really want this? You really care about this? We'll do it. So we got Jeff Hengesbach, who's now at Estrella Mountain Community College physics faculty. We got him to lead a 2-week physical science modeling workshop for them one June. And the district paid every teacher who attended a stipend using their Title II funds. They paid Jeff out of their Title II funds, and it was a win-win. And then they went ahead, that district, and bought an AMTA memberships for all the teachers. Apparently, I wasn't involved in that, but I mean, it was a really good use of their Title II funds. So there's one example. Another example, years and years ago, I worked with a school district in Southern California, in Los Angeles area. They wanted to have a modeling workshop in their district. There were just 2 high schools in the district. And I said to them, well, why don't you use your Title II funds to pay your leader and your co-leader, which they did, and give everybody a stipend, and then open it up to the whole Los Angeles area. And so they did, and they got teachers from other school districts, charter schools, and so forth to attend, and they charged. And so those teachers used their Title II funds or whatever, private school funds or whatever they could to pay a registration. And so it was, again, it was a win-win. So it was pretty easy for me. I didn't have to do much work because the school district coordinator, science coordinator, or curriculum coordinator did all the work. I just gave them a start. I gave them some, it's like a sample proposal that they could use to get their Title II funds from the district grant coordinator.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. And just to kind of reinforce that, if that comes from the teachers, it really helps too, because a lot of times those curriculum coordinators will listen to, a teacher bringing those ideas if it's coming from the bottom up. In fact,
Right.
we combine that, the Title II funds in our district with you know, some money from, you know, a corporation, and then also an NSF grant. So between the three, not we got all our teachers trained, and then we were able to run a couple of workshops, you know, at Ridley. So, you know, not only can you just do one, but you know, we kind of combine them, you know, to get everybody trained and then to pull off workshops.
Mhm. It's especially good if it comes from a group of teachers,
Yeah,
more than one.
agreed. Okay.
But it has to be done very early, because Title II funds are
Get your mark.
designated about a year early.
Yep. Okay. Is Chance still here? Chance, just wanted to give you a chance, an opportunity before, I know you have another meeting to go to. Uh, Can you hit your? Yep. There
But
you go.
I'll actually be here till 5, so I don't know how long you all are gonna go, but well, I don't have a specific to add. I mean, I think, as I told Sue when I got on here, like I've been lucky. I've kind of tagged along with the Western Regional Noise proposal, and so we've kind of offer the professional development to sort of their students, or their part of their noise scholars. And so that's sort of supplemented what we've been able to do. And then we've let other people come as well. And that's sort of what allows us to do biology, physics, and chemistry all at the same time. So the Western Regional Noise essentially pays for one section or one instructor, and sort of all the associated costs for the noise scholars to get there. That certainly makes it easier to sort of put on a workshop for the summer. Is that what you wanted to hear?
It is, Chance, and
Okay.
and so I know that we've connected with some noise folks as well. And this one, can you just talk a little bit about how you go about getting that connection and making that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Nothing extravagant, just
no. Well, I mean, this was sort of semi-fortuitous. I don't know if you've all have heard about the stars summer. Now I can't even think of what it is, but we take pre-service teachers, and if they're interested in teaching, we send them to national labs in the summer. And because of that, and it's a big, expensive program looking, we kind of had a partnership with Western Regional Noise, and out of that came sort of like, oh, well, why don't you do the professional development in science? So, I mean, I think this is a function of sort of playing with other people, going to conferences and connecting and finding other people that are excited about modeling, and sort of being in there. Because Western Regional Noise actually does a lot. Like at the beginning, it was just modeling, and then they had a math person, but they've opened it up and they have all kinds of opportunities. We do the modeling science, there's math opportunities, there's combining literacy and all that. So, I mean, I think there's sometimes more, like now there would be more opportunity to kind of jump in on that sort of a thing. But if you're in a different region, then I think you could say, hey, it works over here in the West. It could work in the Midwest. It could work in the East, work in the South, whatever I think those are the 4 areas.
Where
I
are
mean,
they
then I have
headquartered?
some other money, like I mean, I charge people to come, and I'm trying to find like what's that balance point. And so we've been doing about $650 to have people come, and then that sort of supports some of it as well. I'm trying to make that a break even, like just to pay for the instructors, pay for the rooms, pay for that sort of parking. And I've been lucky to kind of be able to fill in with this noise. But I also have some, foundation grants that sort of I've pulled, 10,000 a year kind of to support, just to make it go. I guess what I'm doing is just making it go with sort of in any way that I can. And I think I just love modeling. I'm just impressed with modeling. And so I try and do whatever I can to sort of make it run every summer.
Hmm.
So
we appreciate it.
so luck has something to do with it. Desire to make it happen. But I mean, I think that actually my mechanism, I haven't been out there. Like, I love these ideas that Jane has. Like, I'm like, these should be on my website so that, the people that are paying can come, because I think they've come and they've said, hey, it's so expensive, right? If I have to come all the way, even if they're in California, they have to put up for a week or 2 weeks, depending on what workshop we're doing. So I think having all these resources like, hey, where can you find the money and do it is super helpful. I mean, in that vein, I mean, I think just because this group will think about this, I mean, we've kind of been doing the 2-week workshop. And so this last year, because we're doing with Western Regional Noise, they make us experiment too. Like we can't just do the same whole thing because, you know, the PI, the Western Regional Noise is like, hey, everybody that comes is from Texas and California. How do we sort of cover all the other states in the West and get them to come as well? And so we did a 2-week workshop. And then this last year we did 1 week in person and 1 week online. And it solved some problem, right? Because I think there was definitely a group out there that could only get away for 1 week, like let alone 3 weeks. Good luck. I don't know if that's happening these days for some group of people, like, because we were like, they couldn't even come for 2. Either they had family constraints or sort of whatever, but they could sort of do this online piece. And so I think that's an issue. Like, how do you get, like, even if people have the money and all that, like 2 weeks is a long time for the 8-week thing when they're trying to make their world better. And so the thing, and while people here are there, like, I'm going to save this till later. That's going to open a door. Never mind.
You're among friends, Chance. You can.
All right. Well, my idea is, and so you're all modeling people like I hear the 1 week thing. Like, could you do 1 week this summer and do the second week next summer so that I can always offer a 2-week workshop, but the people that only are limited by time can do 1 week. Now, it has definite drawbacks in the sense of a year's a long time. They might start without it. Well, that's not really a drawback. I'm fine with the start without the whole thing, but it has some positives too, right? That they could learn about it and then they could try some things during that year and come back and really finish it off. So, I mean, I don't know, it's not like anti-modeling, like that's not a possibility because.
Actually, Chance, we have a site that actually does that.
Oh, awesome. This is amazing. Okay. It's already worth the price of admission.
Yeah, we have Jamie Vasenka does that in Maine. Has been doing it for some time for that exact reason, and it does seem to work okay.
All right.
Yeah, so I can put you in touch with him, and you can kind of talk about how that could work. So yeah, definite possibility.
But I think that's also related to like, because then it costs less too for those people that come like only for 1 week. Like there's just all related to these cost issues.
It is, but time is like you said, time is a big thing for people now. So that's a big hurdle. All right. Well, thanks, Chance.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Chance or Jane? All right. Who would like to share their ideas next? Brooke? All right. Thanks, Brooke.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm gonna hop on and I'll share. So let me share a little bit of my story, which is, so I came from Arizona. I got to teach at one of the community colleges where there was a lot of modeling going on. I came from a really strong modeling community. And then I moved to Utah and there wasn't strong modeling going on. And so it's been one of my dreams to bring it up to Utah. And I thought I was going to be successful in making that happen last year. And I was not. And so what I'm going to share is things I learned from failing. So this might take a little bit of a different take. I think that's okay. And I was a little intimidated when I was asked to be part of this. And I thought, I could just talk about what I didn't do right. And then what I learned from that and what I want to be doing differently moving forward. And that's okay. So these were my 3 main takeaways is that maybe have more than one source of where you're drawing people to attend from. And then build out your team, and then know your incentives. Those are the things. So I'll talk about each of those. I have also a community of practice where we're learning about AI. And so I played around with some AI generated images. I did get these from Firefly, which is, it's a more ethically sourced. I don't know, we'll get that. That's what this is from. Okay, so one of the things that did not go well is that I initially working with a single school district, and they underwent some challenges, which resulted in a change of leadership. And so we had some agreements with them originally. They promised funding to any of their teachers, and that did go through eventually, but it took them until April for that funding to come through. And so their teachers basically didn't know that they had this funding available to come to the summer workshops. And so nobody knew about it. And so by the time they did find out about it, most of them had summer plans and they were not going to make time for a 2-week workshop last minute. So a few of them did sign up, but by the time that was happening, we just didn't have the numbers. So one of my lessons learned was don't rely on a single school district or a single group of attendees to fill out your workshop. That's just not smart. So one of the things I'm doing this year is I'm definitely working with more than one school district. So like I said, I'm in Utah. I am located north of Salt Lake. I work at a school called Weber State University. So I'm working with Weber, Ogden, and Salt Lake school districts. Those numbers located next to those are the number of high schools that are located in those school districts. And I am lucky enough that I have established relationships already with 2 of those 3 science coordinators. So I will be working with those individuals to get the programs with those people. One of the things that I would like to highlight, if you don't already are not thinking about this already, local colleges or universities that are around your areas, they may have centers for science and math education. They may have lists of teachers who are already looking for professional development. These are probably the teachers who are pre-selecting themselves to better themselves. And you might want to ask them for, hey, I have this workshop I'm planning. Would you mind helping me disseminate this information? They may be on your path already. So that might be a really good way. I'm affiliated with our university's Center for Science and Math Education, so they're already on my back. They've got a newsletter that they're going to be putting out, and so I get to be part of that and get that information out way earlier this year as opposed to last year as well, which is great. Another thing that's going to allow me access to our pre-service teachers, and which is great. We've figured out this year that AmeriCorps has money that they will pay students to work in schools. And so if they're doing professional development in schools, we can pay them to do that. And so we can cover we can't cover necessarily everything that they're doing, but for the number of hours that they're there, we can pay them basically a stipend for being in the workshops for that.
Oh.
So that's going to be great as it's not, like I said, it's not going to cover their tuition, but it's going to cover like a stipend for them to be there, which is great. And of course, using the listserv and the Discord for AMTA to help get the word out. It's, hopefully an easy thing to do. But the main thing I don't want to overlook, which we haven't actually talked about yet, is that personal recruiting. I think back to the first time I took a modeling workshop, it was because somebody said, hey, you should do this. It was a personal invitation. And taking time to make those personal invitations, that's really good time spent. So I will be doing that this year, not just doing it through the coordinators, not just through whatever. I'm going to be picking up the phone. I will be sending personal emails saying, hey, I want you to do this with me. So that was one of my first lessons that I learned. The second one was build out your team. There were basically 2 of us who did this, and it was not the smartest thing I've ever done. I found out there was a lot more that went into it, and that was, like I said, not the smartest thing. And so who can you get help from? One of the things I have found this year is there are mentors everywhere. Some that don't even know modeling. I have one of my most valuable resources has been a mentor at school at my job with me. She happens to be a guru of finding money. I don't know how I didn't know this before, but she knows how to find money everywhere. She just is wonderful at this. And so she's been a great mentor for me at work. Of course, other teachers who are embedded at schools across, I mean, we have these networks already, let's use them. School administrators, and I don't necessarily mean the ones at the top, I mean the ones who are sitting in the office. They know how to, book up the hotels, they know how to get all of the stuff coordinated that needs to happen. Let's use that, let's get those people on our side. Like, these can be really valuable resources in making sure that the plans get coordinated. Because I'm starting this from scratch, and you may be too, I don't know. Some people may be in great situations, other previous friends who are like, have got their things going. I'm not, I'm starting this from scratch, so there's that. Of course, other modelers. So this can be, people who that who are involved in other areas who say, I've been doing it this way, or they may be able to come to your city to, partner with you to help teach, pick their brains, see what they're already doing that helps. Sorry, my dog. And then the other, oh my gosh, AMTA leadership. So if you need help running the money, they will help you with that. If you need help, with other questions, Sue Ray is amazing. She's just amazing. I could sing her praises all day long. If you have questions, she's so good at this. So please, we use these individuals to help us out. And then the other thing I would say is local businesses. I'm lucky enough to be associated with some great businesses, personal connections that you may have. A lot of businesses are really generous. I was lucky enough that through a project that I did with my son's, the high school band, I gathered donations for a silent auction, and I was blown away at how, generous these people were. And I thought, well, why don't we just ask? There's a large pharmaceutical development company that's I have some personal connections with. I'm going to ask them for some money just to help, defray the costs of it this year. There's some other businesses that are, down in the tech development areas that I will also have some personal connections with. I will be asking them to say, hey, don't you want to support teachers? Let's do these things. So if you have personal connections with people in these areas, why not just ask? There's no harm in doing those things. So build out your teams. The last thing on this is knowing your incentives. And this is the thing also I didn't do correctly. I did not get my course approved for professional development. I did not understand how important that was here in the state of Utah. You may need to ask those questions for your state. As already addressed, the length of the workshop was a concern. The teachers couldn't get away for that length. I also didn't provide any sort of compensation or stipend for my teachers. So this month I'm working on getting my workshop approved by the state board. I figured out who that individual is, and I'm going to get that approved. I'm also going to get approved the proportional reasoning, just like a single day professional development. I think that's going to be a good way to kind of get word out. So if I can go and do that one day sort of exercise with people, and then it's like, oh, this is really interesting. And I say, yes, this is part of the modeling thing. Why don't you come to the workshop over the summer? I think that's going to be a good way to start spreading the word, because modeling is not a big thing here in Utah. So I think that's going to be part of it. The other thing I found out is that the cost of professional development here in Utah is covered at 100% if it is part of a class that goes towards a teacher's endorsement, even if they already have that endorsement. So I have teachers that I work with because I'm a concurrent enrollment liaison. So, when the high school teaches a chemistry class that I'm over, if they take the chemistry class, so I teach a chemistry workshop. The chemistry workshop is basically the same class. And if they take that class from me, even if they already have their endorsement, then the state pays them to do it. It covers the cost of the class. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that even if they had the endorsement already, they would cover it. So I should have understood that. I should have figured that out better. So, and then the other thing is this, understanding how your modeling lines up with the state's objectives. And what I mean by that is, so these, of course, this is the state objectives. Look at this. These look, pattern finding, cause and effect, scales and proportion, like scale and proportional reasoning, energy. And I mean, if you look through this stuff, it's exactly what the state wants us to be doing. Like modeling is exactly this. So for me to be able to take this to them and say, look how closely we are aligned, this works, but I have to be able to articulate that to them. And so just understanding that better is going to help me be able to present this better. So that was some things that I needed to learn in order to better represent, better sell modeling here in this state, because we're new. Now, like I said, if you're in your state already, it's established, that's fantastic. But if it's new to your state, this may be some of the homework you need to do. So that was one of the things I had to do for mine.
Brooke, that was such a great summary of the challenges that so many folks that are trying to get a workshop. So yeah, the good news is I'm hoping that if Scott Ragan can share, because Scott's been at this for a long time, and he's worked through most of these issues, right? You've been making it happen there in North Carolina for some time, and I'm sure, Scott, you recognize a lot of those hurdles that Brooke is facing as he gets this up and going.
Yeah, I was jotting down some notes as both Chance and Brooke were speaking of things that resonate with what we've faced over the years. So to give you kind of a little background, we've been doing modeling workshops here at NC State since 2008, so about 16 or so years now. Now I'm part of NC State University, but we're kind of like one of the centers. You know, Brooke mentioned a center. We're kind of like a center at the university. We're called the Science House. We're in the College of Sciences, but we are a piece of our college that's totally dedicated to the K-12 STEM outreach. So, you know, our other advantage is we've been around for 30 plus years. The Science House itself has been around since 1991. So the advantages that time has given us is that we've built up networks of partners all across our state. You know, teachers know us, school districts know us, administrators know us. And so we kind of have a pretty hefty, you know, dissemination marketing plan that's just been, you know, even with a monthly newsletter now that can go out to, you know, 5,000 teachers across the state, you know, each month. So that, you know, we didn't get there overnight. Like I said, we've been around for 32, 33 years now. But we're kind of one of those centers. So the things that I'll talk about a little bit different maybe than what Jane talked about. And Chance, you know, I've heard others talking about trying to find funding for individual teachers. I don't have as much experience on that side of things, you know, of trying to find funding sources that would help a teacher, you know, have $500 or $1,000 to go toward a workshop. What we've been very successful with in our 16 or so years is with grants. We've just hit on a lot of stuff. Now, in the early years, it was what MSP grants. Now, these were the MSP grants that were distributed by the U.S. Department of Education. If you're familiar with those, that was a case where the U.S. Department of Ed gave funds straight to states, and then the states decided how they wanted to distribute those. In our state, it was through our state Department of Public Instruction, which then offered a grant process. So actually, from our first workshops from about 2008, for about 9 or 10 years, were funded through like 3 or 4 different grants, through, you know, those federal funds that flowed through our state Department of Public Instruction. Now, since then, you know, we're currently actually have we're in the 4th year of an NSF grant supporting modeling instruction as well. And we're actually writing that's a DRK-12 proposal, if you're familiar with those. And we're actually writing another one of those that's due in about 4 weeks here. It's kind of a follow-up to our first one. So we've been very successful on the grant side of things. The key with that, there's some similar themes that, you know, that kind of Brooke already hit on, is finding the right partners. So, you know, even though we're in the College of Sciences, we've got a very good working relationship with our College of Education at NC State. So we find the right researcher, who has a research educational research question that relates very closely to modeling. And so we can go after funds for them to study this educational research component of modeling. But, from the Science House perspective, we're just looking for funds to support, offering the workshops and let the researcher kind of do his or her own thing. And then we can support that work while we're able to offer our workshops. Because most of those workshops we've offered in those 16 years, we've pretty much had workshops every summer since 2008, except maybe during the COVID years. I think 2020 and 2021, we kind of were on the sidelines like a lot of people. But most of our workshops, we've offered stipends for teachers to attend, which of course is a very good incentive. But that's kind of helped. That's part of why I've never really had to spend as much time helping an individual teacher find funds to attend. Now we have offered a couple of registration fee-based modeling workshops. And like a lot of you have probably experienced, those can kind of be hit and miss. Sometimes you offer it, you don't get enough people, and I've had to cancel it, a month before the workshop starts because I didn't get the minimum amount of people that we needed to make it work. But like I said, we've become, partnering with not just schools, but whole districts. The other big thing that's been a plus to us, and this took years of building this partnership, is getting some people from our state Department of Public Instruction on our side and to see the value of modeling. And so we've built up some good working relationships with those folks to the point that now when those, it's called DPI in North Carolina, Department of Public Instruction, when the DPI staff is going out to various districts, they're actually selling modeling for us. They're talking it up. They're encouraging teachers to take our workshops, and that's helped a lot as well. So like I said, it's always challenging to get grant funds, especially if it's more of the federal type money that we've sought to get. But I do think we're in an environment right now where there's a lot of potential for that, not just in North Carolina, but it's states all across the country. And a lot of that has to do with, Brooke, I think, talked about the standards. That if you're a state that's adopted the NGSS standards, or, some states have adopted variations of that, the science and engineering practices that are talked about in those standards, as she said, it's modeling. It's a perfect fit. And so I think as those standards are adopted and promoted across the country, it offers the opportunity to do some good educational research. So if you can find the right research partner to help you write the grant, I do think there's good opportunities to find some of that funding right now. But that's how we've been, like I said, we've been very successful with that. A few other just kind of logistical things that I'll talk about that I've heard mentioned already as well. We have struggled with some of the same things. Our early years of workshops were 3-week sessions in the summer. I look back now and I'm like, how in the world did we get teachers to come to 3 weeks? But we did back in the day. Nowadays, not so much. We're kind of moving to a model of if we do a workshop in the summer, it's 2 weeks maximum. We just think the 3-week commitment, teachers seem less likely to do that now, and for a variety of reasons. But so we've moved more to the 2-week model. And the other thing that we're trying, and I mentioned this in the chat box when I heard Chance talking earlier, sometimes 2 weeks is too much. And so we offered a modeling biology workshop this summer for a specific district that sent about a dozen biology teachers to it. So it was a 1-week summer experience. Now, we didn't get to cover all of the content in that 1 week of PD. But what we're doing is we scheduled 2 two-day follow-ups during the early fall, hopefully with the thinking being, okay, we can cover that content with them before they actually teach it in their classrooms. And so we're doing that. And a district now. So if you can find a district who is willing to send their teachers to a 1 week experience, and then also it's easier to do those follow-up days during the academic year when you're just dealing with, say, one district. If you're dealing with multiple districts and you can't go on site to them, that makes the academic year follow-ups a little bit more challenging. But that's a new PD model that we're trying for the first time this year, and I think it's going to be successful. Other things, I'll mention that, we haven't always done this, but if you are partnering with a university, and Brooke kind of touched on this as well, and you can somehow offer college, and I know Arizona State's been great at doing this. If you can somehow offer college credit for those modeling courses, that's a big incentive. Even if you can't get somebody to pay for it just because that's offered, like Brooke talked about, it's an incentive to a teacher who is trying to maybe get his or her master's degree, or get some sort of maybe national board certification or something along those lines. So we haven't always done that at NC State, but there have been times where we've had faculty partners who've helped us offer college credit for the courses, and that's helped as an incentive as well. Just looking at some of the other things I had jotted down, that's kind of the main gist of that. As I said, I know we're a little bit different in that we've had more success than most going the grant model. But if you wanted to ever pick my brain about that and kind of how we've written our grants and some of the things that we've tried to study, I'll be glad to share that with you. The NSF, the DRK-12 proposal that we're working on right now, I have a College of Ed faculty member whose expertise is in PCK, pedagogical content knowledge. And so she's looking at answering some research questions around, how does modeling instruction and modeling pedagogy impact a teacher's PCK? And we're getting some very promising research results from that. And so that's just one example of kind of how we've been somewhat successful. So, but yeah, I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Scott, out of curiosity, when you have, you said you had like a district come, or 12 teachers from a district come, since you're at a university, did they stay on the campus, or were they teachers that were commuting in every day?
So in that particular, the one we're doing right now, since it was one district, we actually went to them. So, and that I should add, they did contract with us. So they're paying the Science House, they're paying NC State. And that's basically just so that I can pay my instructors, that I can cover their travel, some of those, basically break even kind of costs. So the district's paying us, we provide all the materials, I provide the instructors, we come to them and to their district and taught that 1 week workshop, and we actually go to them for the follow-up workshops as well.
Scott, I just want to make a comment about the hybrid. I know Chance mentioned they did the hybrid this past year. I'm sure you've thought of this already, but I know Brenda Royce pretty well, and she said what worked well was they front loaded a lot of discourse activities. They really thought out, in that 1 week, how can we best utilize this face-to-face time? And then they followed up, that other time with content and, activities that they thought, could be done online. So I'm sure you've thought about that. I just thought I'd mention it. And
yeah,
you need a resource. There are folks that, Chance's folks have done it. So, and I think they did it pretty well this past year.
Yeah, I will say it takes, when you're going to shorten the amount of PD days you're going to offer, you need a pretty experienced modeling instructor, because they, just like you said, Ray, they've got to be able to think through, okay, what are the, I've got to cut some stuff here to get this done in the amount of time I have. What are the essentials that we feel like are non-negotiables that we can't cut? We've got to do this. What are the things that maybe we can do offline or in another format, or not necessarily in face-to-face time? So if you've got experienced instructors, that it was even challenging for my instructors who have been teaching modeling workshops for, 5 to 10 years. That, they're not newbies, but to try to pare down, what they're used to doing in 2 to 3 weeks to a slightly less than 2 weeks is challenging.
Agreed.
And I'll just say on doing the PD where you did 1 week in person and followed it by we did 6 half days following. I think they made it work, but it definitely highlighted oh, in person and virtual. And I think the instructors were virtual definitely felt a lot lower than the in person. So, I mean, that's a real drag. And then a lot of people didn't show, right? Or didn't show consistently. I mean, if you were doing it with a district, I like the kind of idea where you spread it throughout the year, and then if you're going to a specific district, they could make it a PD day for them or something. But we didn't really have that, and it was all around 4th of July. So it definitely, there's some things to think about in there just from an energy management point of view.
Yeah.
Have you ever done it where you did those follow-up PD days in person?
You're talking to me or Chance?
Any of you?
So
We have not, because we have people
Right.
coming from all over the country. So
Right.
that hasn't been useful.
Yeah, we've done, I've actually done statewide grants where we would do maybe a 2 week workshop. I say statewide grants, meaning that I might have teachers from the coast or the mountains, which can be 3 or 4 hours away from us in Raleigh. But we would do a 2 week summer experience and then bring them back to campus for a Friday, Saturday in person workshop. Now, you've got to have a hefty budget to do that, because I'm paying, during the summers, I can put them in campus dorms, but during the academic year, I
Right.
can't. So I have to put them in hotels. I have to cover their sub for Friday, and things of that nature. But we have done that and had some success with it, but you've got to have a hefty budget to make that work.
I can speak a little bit to that too, Scott, because you probably don't remember this, but I actually did run one of those Friday, Saturdays. Larry Dukerich couldn't make Friday, Saturday, so I filled in for him and went down. And what I can tell you, Brooke, is it was some of the most high energy 2 days I've had in a workshop, because by the time I had these folks, they had been trying modeling out, and they were pretty new. So they had tons of questions. They were super excited about what they were doing and wanted to know more about some of these activities. So we were I came into the point where we were doing some more advanced chemistry, and they were jazzed and had some really great questions, and they were super into it.
Yeah,
And that's what
that is a big
looking-
advantage. Sorry, Brooke.
No, and that's what I'm looking at, is because the districts I'm looking at are local to my university. They're within 5 minutes of my campus. And so going to them and doing, let's have everybody meet at this campus so they have a half day, and I don't know if this is the same the other people have this, but they have a half day release time that's for professional development or for planning. And so my thought is to use some of that time for this once a month. And so if they do a week in the summer, and then once a month I use some of their thing to in person get together and do, their additional time for this, so they can get together and do it. It would just be a couple hours a month for every month throughout the school year, but it'd be in person every time. And I guess I was wondering, because it seems like for those who are doing it every month, it was online every time and it wasn't in person. So I guess I was just wondering if anyone had done something like that. I mean, it's not like you did on the weekend or whatever, but I guess I'm wondering if, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ray's right. A big advantage of doing it academic year follow-up days or half days is, hopefully, as he said, the teachers have tried to implement, what you showed them in the summer. And so you have we've always had great conversations those weekends where you talk to the teachers about, okay, what worked well, what didn't, what'd you struggle with? And so, they kind of have their peers to say, well, I did that and it was a disaster, but, but maybe I should have tried this. So you do have that advantage there. I completely understand the need for doing some virtual stuff. You know, it's not ideal, but it's the world we live in. Now, the thing that we have used virtual stuff for very successfully is the mentoring, because we typically, especially with our grant funded projects, is not only do we bring them back for follow-up workshops, but we assign a mentor to them, an experienced modeling instructor. And so the Zoom sessions or Google Meet sessions, those sorts of things have allowed us to do some virtual mentoring, as opposed to, in our early years of the project, we actually had project coaches that crisscrossed the state visiting teachers in their classroom. Jane probably knows some of those. Ray, you may too. Angela Gard was one of them, and Patty Blanton was another one. They were our project coaches and traveling all over North Carolina and visiting teachers in their classroom. But it's not a sustainable model when you're having to cover a large area. And so the virtual tools have allowed us to better mentor a teacher than we could in the past.
Yeah, and Scott, we've had several requests and been able to fulfill a few of them for mentors, so we pair up an experienced modeler with folks that are at a school where they just have, a couple folks that want to learn about it. And that's been pretty successful. And we also run a guidance for the implementation of modeling course. And essentially, for that same reason, that person is on there as a mentor as they try to implement modeling in their schools. I did want to ask you about one other thing, and I think this may help Brooke, although I think she might have just popped off. I noticed the difference in the energy when you bring together teachers from different districts like that, Scott. Like, I'm sure you see that too. Like, within a district, there are certain personalities, there's a certain culture that develops, and sometimes it's hard to crack that bubble. But when they get together with other teachers at other districts and they're sharing and they're kind of accountable to each other, it does seem to change the conversation.
Yeah, I've found that it helps, when you do a workshop and you're going to have 20 people in the room or so, you're going to have a naysayer or two. You're going to have one or two. They're like, "Oh, this can't be done." This, the negative Nancy's or whatever you want to call them. Bringing them back and those kind of peer, it really does kind of help break down some of those barriers. And I've seen participants who initially might have seemed resistant or wanted to be pessimistic toward whether they could teach like this in the classroom. Their peers and their colleagues sharing some of their successes with them has won a lot of them over the years.
So we're getting close to the time for the hour, but it seems like at the end here we've kind of started a conversation that maybe for a follow-up meeting of how to best navigate, right, as we try to evolve our use of some distance learning, right, some virtual tools, working with the time constraints of maybe doing something with 1 week with follow-ups and something like that. Maybe that's a follow-up conversation we have. But anyway, I did want to end by thanking everybody for their ideas, sharing their ideas and experience with getting funding for these workshops. And I am going to speak for everyone saying what kind of what Scott offered. If anybody has a question of anyone, if you want to send me the question, I can reach out to the folks that presented and see if we can get an answer. And like I said, I know that there will be many listening to this recording, and that the same invitation would extend to them, because right now we are certainly in a mode of trying to get more workshops going. And a big part of that was part of the discussion tonight was the communication, getting the word out, making presentations. So the more folks you can reach out to and the more presentations we can have, the more helpful to getting more workshops established. Any last questions before we sign off?
Hey,
Yeah.
Ray, can I just add one thing real quick?
Please
Can you
do.
hear me? Yeah.
Put
I
your
think
fire
one
out.
of the things that I kind of fell into doing a modeling workshop this summer. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about is funding, but it was helpful for me to understand how much it actually cost me to run a workshop this summer, so that there's somewhat of an idea of how much money you kind of need to gather. And I guess your goals will be different, but in each instance. But my goal was that I was going to be able to pay every single teacher $1,500 to come to a 3-week workshop, so $100 a day. And the total cost for me for this entire workshop, most of it was in those teacher stipends, but the total cost was $49,000. And I guess 6,000 of that, which could be thought of as maybe not necessarily needed, was me to make sure that I had all of the technology supplies. Right, I wanted every single participant to make sure that they had many force sensors and all these things to work with. So maybe you don't need that, but even if you take that, then we're at 43,000. If you have a goal of making sure that you can help the teachers in some way, so that the stipends alone cost 22,500. So even without that, then we're still at about 20,000. So I definitely have, I was able to get that money together at MSU, and hoping to do more in the future. But I think that number is maybe important for as like a benchmark or a goal if you plan on supporting the teachers in some way.
That's a really good point, Matt. Yes, it's good to start from where you want to end, right?
Ray, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Is
Oh, yeah.
This is a very hypothetical question. So just hearing what Matthew was saying, technically, if money is not something that you're concerned about, but you do want teachers to be able to come, can you do the workshop and not charge for it? Still pay the licensing fee and whatever AMTA is supposed to get paid, but can it be something that you offer for free?
Sure. That really, we don't really dictate what any workshop charges. We got a licensing fee. We just want to make sure the leaders get, try to keep consistency for the leaders. And beyond that, it's really, up to however you can run it locally, right? So the cost ranges from, a few $100s to, over $1,000, depending on each workshop situation.
Okay, that helps. It helps me in my mind as I'm thinking about what ideas might work versus what my school wants, what I want, what the teachers need, etc.
Dan.
Hey everyone, sorry I had to leave for a little bit. I had a fire I had to put out at work. But I just wanted to say hi to everybody that I haven't met. Today, it's nice to see you. Ray, it's good to see you. Jane, I haven't met you yet, I don't think, so it's really nice to see you on here. I heavily cited you as a portion of my PhD. Those of you that don't know me, I worked with Colleen and helped develop the astronomy modeling stuff as a portion of my PhD work. And I'm currently working on an astronomy project and very little time, but I'm trying to find ways to find funding to have more modeling workshops in the astronomy division of things, and looking at philanthropy. So I'm thinking about putting together some large proposals to some philanthropic foundations to fund some of the ideas that Colleen and I have. Also looking at putting grants together for NSF and other maybe federally funded type of grants that could fund more modeling work. So it's something that I still love and want to do. I just trying to find the time to put the stuff together. It might take a little bit longer, but it's something I'm still dedicated to, and just wanted to put that out there and let you know that I'm working on it.
Right. And I want to add something for Tania. Tania, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. anybody like you who teaches at an independent school, you have got the E.E. Ford Foundation, which gives grants of $75,000 to $100,000 each year to independent schools. And I was on their website a couple days ago, and you know, one of their grants, $75,000 for a school garden.
What?
That $75,000 would be much better spent for a modeling workshop where that your school could offer and open it up to all the other independent schools in the whole nation. You know, I think that would be a winner. EE4.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up, okay?
Do it, do it.
Thank you.
And if you need help looking over anything that you put together today before you send to foundation, let me know. I just got put through a fundraising course for my current job with the Lilly School of Philanthropy. I'm not an expert, but I definitely I've been learning some things here.
Can you, Dan, put your email in the chat for me?
Yeah. Let me put it in. I'm gonna give you my SETI email address just because that one I keep it for modeling stuff for now.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Any other questions? Like I said, if you think of anything afterwards, feel free to reach out and we will connect you to the right people. But just thank everybody for their input. And I'm sure everybody will find this really helpful.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thanks,
Good to
everyone.
see you and good to meet some of you. Take care. Have a good day.